welcome to the news updates on AFRICUNIA television, reaching you from the nation's commercial capital, Lagos, Nigeria, and I'm Deborah Ezeh. Our news update today will begin from Nigeria, as Nigeria is gradually inching towards a financial blockade at international financial markets, as its working relationship with international development and funding partners, including the World Bank and International Monetary Fund, deteriorates to its worst level in recent years. Several external factors such as the global hike in interest rates and high inflation rates have significant impact on the cost of borrowing from the global market. Nigeria is wallowing in a web of self-inflicted missteps, with some experts arguing that its rising risk and deteriorating sovereign rating would have contributed to the sudden sharp rise in the country already underpriced bonds. Yesterday, a senior official at the World Bank added to calls for changes in sovereign debt laws so governments have more control when crises strike. World Bank economists estimate that low and middle income economies owe a record of $9.3 trillion to foreign creditors, and that 40 poor countries and about half a dozen middle income ones are either in debt crisis or at a high risk of it. In reference to the CBN intervention program, which the World Bank claimed had the crowding out effect on risk-adjusted or commercial lending, the president said the governor is following an alternative economic model that puts people at the heart of policy. And now moving on, the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, on Tuesday failed to persuade the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja to release him on bail pending the determination of the treasonable felony charge the federal government referred against him. The court, in a ruling that was delivered by Trial Justice Binta Nyako, declined Kanu's fresh request for bail on the premise that it lacked merit. It held that the defendant failed to adduce a cogent reason that could warrant the setting aside of the order that revoked his bail. The ruling came on a day the court temporarily suspended further proceedings in the matter to await the outcome of an appeal the embattled IPOB leader lodged to challenge the competence of the charge federal government slammed against him. Specifically, he urged the court to set aside the order it made on March 28, 2019, which not only issued a bench warrant for his arrest, but also gave the federal government the nod to try him in absentia. Meanwhile, dismissing the bail request on Tuesday, Justice Nyako says she was not satisfied with the reason the defendant gave on why he absconded and failed to appear in court for the continuation of his trial. The trial judge noted that from records of the court, Kanu was represented by his lawyers on the day his bail was revoked, likewise his sureties. More so, Justice Nyako stressed that though a court could vacate a previous order when confronted with a cogent and verifiable reason, she maintained that such reason was not adduced in the instead case. Now, away from Nigeria, Zimbabwe's central bank said Monday it was raising its main policy rate to 200%, the highest in the world for the southern African country struggling with soaring inflation. The Monetary Authority said in a statement that it had more than doubled the rate to try to contain inflation, which has been further aggravated by the war in Ukraine, expressing great concern. Annual inflation has more than doubled in 2 months to 191% in June, fueling fears of a return to the hyperinflation that has wrecked the country's economy. The rate was last raised to 80% in April from 60%, and central banks in many other countries have raised their policy rates in response to rising energy and food prices since the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Now, still on the African scene, Guinean Prime Minister has met with political parties to ease tensions after the National Front for the Defense of the Constitution suspended its calls for a demonstration that was due to be the first major protest rally under the now ruling junta. The FNDC had called for people to take to the streets on Thursday in defiance of a recent protest ban announced by the military leaders who overthrew former President Alpha Conde in September. This meeting between the country's political forces comes less than a week before a summit of the Economic Community of West African States, which is expected to decide on an extension of economic sanction. 2 attempts at consultation have already taken place since early 2002, but they were boycotted by a number of organizations, including the National Alliance for Change and Democracy and the National Front for the Defense of the Constitution. We now go on a short break, and when we come back, it's updates making the rounds on the foreign scene. Stay with me. How to buy airtime from the AFRICUNIA Bank. Log into your AFRICUNIA Bank app, click on the three horizontal lines above the screen, then click on the dashboard. Then above the screen top is another three horizontal line. Click on it. Scroll down and click on Buy Mobile Airtime. You'll be directed to another page. Then select your country and enter your mobile number, then click on Submit. You'll be directed to a page where you select the amount of airtime you want, then directed to where you'll be asked to confirm your recharge details. Change your select wallet from USD to NGN if you're in Nigeria. Then click on Make Payments and your recharge is successful. And now welcome back. We head to the foreign scene where NATO ally Turkey lifted its veto over Finland and Sweden's bid to join the Western Alliance on Tuesday, after the three nations agreed to protect each other's security, ending a week-long drama that tested allied unity against Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The breakthrough came after 4 hours of talks just before NATO summit began in Madrid, averting an embarrassing impasse at the gathering of 30 leaders that aims to show resolve against Russia, now seen by the US-led alliance as a direct security threat rather than a possible adversary. It means Helsinki and Stockholm can proceed with the application to join the nuclear-armed alliance, cementing what is said to be the biggest shift in European security in decades, as the two long-neutral Nordic countries seek NATO protection. NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg and Turkey's presidency confirmed the accord in separate statements after talks between NATO chief Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan and Swedish Prime Minister Magdalena Andersson and Niinistö. And now moving on, Canadian police shot dead 2 men and 6 officers were wounded during a gunfight at a bank in British Columbia, and nearby homes were evacuated after the discovery of a possible explosive device. Emergency response team members arrived on the scene at the Bank of Montreal in Saanich on Vancouver Island near the border with the U.S. state of Washington around 11 a.m. Homes and businesses in close proximity to the scene of the incident have been evacuated due to the presence of a potential explosive device in the vehicle associated to the suspect. Later, police said they were lifting a shelter-in-place order, but that the block near the bank remained closed over the potential bomb. 6 officers were taken to hospital with gunshot wounds, some of whom would soon be released, but others sustained very serious injuries and have been taken into surgery. Meanwhile, a Russian missile strike killed at least 3 people in a residential building in southern Ukraine on Wednesday, as the search continued for dozens still missing from an attack on a shopping mall 2 days ago. Photographs show smoke blowing or billowing from a 4-story building with its upper floor partly destroyed. Ukraine said Russia had killed civilians deliberately when it pounded a mall in Kremenchuk. Moscow said the mall was empty and it had struck a nearby arms depot. Authorities said around 36 people were still missing in Kremenchuk, and further east in Luhansk region, a key battleground in Russia assault on the industrial heartland of Donbass, the governor reported increased military action. Russia's denied targeting civilian areas during its 4-month offensive against Ukraine, but the UN says at least 4,700 civilians have been killed since Russia invaded on February 24th. Now still on the foreign scene, US President Joe Biden administration added 5 companies in China to a trade blacklist on Tuesday for allegedly supporting Russia's military and defense industrial base, flexing its muscle to enforce sanctions against Moscow over its invasion of Ukraine. The Commerce Department, which oversees the blacklist, said the targeted companies that supplies items to Russia entities of concern before February 24th invasion, adding that they continue to contract to supply Russia entity listed and sanctioned party. The agency also added another 31 entities to the blacklist from countries that include Russia, UAE, Lithuania, Pakistan, Singapore, the United States, Uzbekistan, and Vietnam, according to the Federal Registry entry. And of the 36 total companies added, 25 had China-based operation. And now away from the foreign scene, we now head to the sports scene. Chelsea are in talks with Leeds over a deal for Rafinha, with the Blues prepared to pay in excess of £50 million to get the deal done. Chelsea's bid has at this point trumped Arsenal, who had an opening bid rejected but are expected to go back in with an improved offer. Chelsea are also in for Raheem Sterling with Manchester City, expecting to field the bid for the England international after Thomas Tuchel engaged Sterling over how it will fit in at Stamford Bridge. Barcelona are also understood to want to sign Rafinha, whose agent is a former Barca player Deco. Rafinha has been Leeds' outstanding attacking player since joining 2 seasons ago, scoring 17 Premier League goals. And finally, French Interior Minister Gerald Darmanin on Tuesday made a partial apology for chaos at last month's Champions League final between Real Madrid and Liverpool in Paris, while insisting fake tickets and delinquencies were mostly to blame. After the scenes of fans crowded into tight spaces and being tear-gassed by police caused outrage around Europe, Darmanin poured fuel on the fire by blaming supporters with fake tickets for the disruption. UEFA event director Martin Kalin last week told French senators investigating the fiasco that the football body's count of fake tickets was far short of the tens of thousands claims by French authorities. A government report published earlier this month said a chain of failures by French authorities has inflicted severe damage on the image of the country as it prepares to host the Olympics Games in 2024. And that concludes the news updates from AFRICUNIA television. To get more updates and to stay connected to our subsequent programs, follow all our social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, Jointon, Pangram, and on Twitter in that respective order. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel on www.youtube.com/AFRICUNIA TV. And you can also link us up on www.africunia.tv. Once again, I'm Deborah Ezeh. Bye for now.